Hey guys, welcome back. It's Guardian Angel or Guardian Angel, whichever you prefer. I'm here today with some, with a game called I Saw Him Today. All I know about this is that it's a short, emotional visual novel, but there are no choices. And the creator even asked people to not suggest choices, because they created it to be like this. It's fully released, it's finished, so yeah. Cannot hear anything. Okay, is there no sound? That's gonna be kind of weird. I'll put in some background music, yep. Go. Alrighty. Let's text preview a little bit. Alright, let's start. I saw him today. He has He has longer, messier hair. I just messed that up. I mess up everything these days. He has longer, messier hair now. He's wearing casual street clothes. They don't look completely new, but they're definitely not old and worn. There's a look of boredness on his face. There's a look of boredom on his face. He doesn't want to be on the subway much longer. He's glued to his phone, absent-mindedly flicking through apps, notifications, something. Is he talking to someone? Who? The subway comes to a halt as we reach the next station. More people pile on. He doesn't look my direction. I'm thankful. I wouldn't know what to say. Instead, I just stand there with my mouth hanging open, staring at him like a stalker. I like the artwork. It's been years. A few long, long years since I last saw him. We were best friends in elementary school. He was like an older brother to me, even though he was only a few months older. He was the type of friend who had an extra toothbrush and blankets for me at his house, and the same for him at mine. It sounds almost cliché, but we really would spend almost every day together. I didn't have many friends being the new kid in the school. When I arrived, he welcomed me with open arms. We lived only a couple of blocks from each other. It was perfect. When it was hot, we'd watch TV and play video games. When it was cool, we'd ride our bikes to the park. It was simple back then. Things started getting more complicated towards the end of middle school. We only had a couple of classes together then. We would eat lunch together when we could, but more and more often he would go straight home. Sometimes he had homework, sometimes he had a cold, sometimes he just wanted to go home alone. I was in middle school. I didn't have to deal with bills or work hours or doctor visits, but I did have to worry about him. We would go a couple weeks at a time. We would go a couple weeks at a time without saying much to each other. I don't know. And then he'd spring back one day and act like we were inseparable. I'd be late for class some days and just trying to talk to him for a bit longer, but he was usually uninterested. He would test me, trying to see how long I could go before crawling back. It worried me. Had I done something wrong? Had I made him mad? Had I insulted him? Had I pushed him away? Of course I hadn't. My anxiety increased over the following months. I tried even harder to spend time with him. If he went home alone, I would go over later to see if he wanted to hang out. If he had a later lunch, I would be late going back to class and sit with him. It was always me trying to make more time with him, not the other way around. I would try to show him stuff to impress him, to show him I was worth being a friend to, like my good grades or awards or something, or just anything. He used to love showing me his accomplishments, but he always turned his head and would go back to ignoring me. This is how life went on for the rest of middle school and into high school. We would be inseparable one month and distant the next. Every time, I always thought it was my fault. Every single time. We come to another stop, and some people get off the subway, some people get on. He doesn't move. I don't know what stop he's waiting for. My own stop is only a few more ahead, but I'm not sure if I'll be getting off on that stop. It looks like he hasn't changed a bit. Physically, yes, now he's an inch or two taller than me. The tips of his hair are dyed, but his roots are showing. The little acne he had in high school is gone. But mentally, I don't think he could ever change. Halfway through high school, I had to move. Dad found a better paying job a few hours away in a place cheaper to live. It was a natural move. I wasn't worried about the new school or the move or the lack of friends. I was worried about him. How was he going to take it? Would I lose contact with him? Would we be able to stay friends? I almost made myself sick waiting for the right time to tell him. I invited him over to stay the night. We played video games and procrastinated doing homework and then ate dinner. Afterwards, I told him. What about me? My parents said it was a natural response. He's still a kid after all. Of course he'd think about himself first. And I believed them, mostly. I didn't want to move. I didn't want to leave him behind. I didn't want to feel guilty about leaving him behind. I left that summer in the dead, dry heat. He didn't come back over. I texted him at least 100 times before I left, just trying to talk to him even for a bit. Sometimes he'd respond with a short answer, sometimes he wouldn't respond at all. In hindsight, the move saved me a lot of stress. I was so busy packing, unpacking, and getting ready for my new school that I just didn't have the time to worry about him not answering. It was in the back of my mind, sure, but I was so busy that I was able to convince myself that he'd respond eventually. And naturally, he did, a couple times. He texted me first a few times, nothing major, just some small talk, just enough for him just enough for him to stay relevant. Going to another new school in the middle of high school wasn't as hard as I thought it would be, at least for me. I tried out for the baseball team and made the cut. I quickly made a new set of friends, more than I had at my old school. I even went to homecoming with some new friends, something I never would have done before. I was happy. I was moving on. He couldn't have that. We reach another stop. Downtown is up ahead, so more people pile on. The tracks screech and the subway lurches forward as we continue on. Should I get off on his stop? Should I approach him? What would I say to him? Thanks for trying to ruin my life? Maybe it'd be better to let him go. I don't like remembering that year, the year he died. I was situated into school nicely. I was starting my second semester there, so it was winter. It was a colder, drearier winter than I was used to back at my old school. It snowed every week, something I wasn't used to. The first time it snowed there, which was about 2 feet, I sent a picture to him. We rarely talked anymore, but I was fine with that. I instantly thought that we were still good friends, and one day we'd start talking again like normal. That's when I got the text. He's dead. It was a long-winded text from a friend at the old school. He had overdosed, trying to kill himself. He was in a coma. He was going to die, and it was my fault. I got another text from a different acquaintance a couple hours later. He's in the hospital on life support. He didn't know how he got there, but he was in bad shape, and it was my fault. Over the course of the night and the next few days, it seemed like the whole school found my social media or phone number and were messaging me. He cut himself trying to off himself. He drove his truck into a tree on purpose. He jumped off a bridge because he didn't want to live anymore. The details were all jumbled up. It was hard to tell what was real and what people had made up when they heard the words suicide attempt. But one fact remained. He was in the hospital and badly hurt. The ringing never stopped. Every time I went online or looked at my phone, I had another notification. Everyone wanted to know why. What happened to make him do that? What was he thinking? Why had I pushed him to do it? Why had I pushed him to it? I didn't know why. I never could have realized why. The assumption was that he had always been depressed and me moving away and ignoring him had been too much. I believed it. I fully, truly, absolutely believed it. It was my fault. Who else's could it have been? I had never known what depression really was until then. It was by far the lowest point of my life. The months following, I ran myself ragged with guilt. I felt worthless. He was released from the hospital soon after being admitted. I don't know how long he spent there. Everyone told me different times. Some say he woke up a few hours after arriving and was released the next day. Others said he spent weeks in care. Whenever he was asked why, he said the same sob story. He left me. He hurt me. Of course, that's not what it was at all. I was young and naive. At first glance, he was just a selfish, depressed kid. But as I grew older, I realized the truth. He was a user. He thrived off of attention and people giving it to him, but he went about getting it in abusive, manipulative ways. He was always seeing how far I could go before I needed him again, how long I could go after being ignored by him. He never cared about what I could do. He only wanted me to be impressed by what he could do. And when he found out he was losing his grip on me, that I could live fine without going back to him, he made sure I would crawl back. I can't imagine what kind of state of mind he was in to fully believe hurting himself that much was worth it. When I look back at it all, I realize how perfect a target I was. I was the new kid at school, and I was so young, so impressionable. I had a hard time fitting in and making friends. That's where he came in. He helped me through it, helped show me around, helped me get used to this new place. At that time, I really liked to think that he didn't have any ill intentions, that he was just a kid and saw another kid struggling and wanted to help. But he got a taste of being the center of attention and wouldn't let it go. We reached the last stop before downtown. A couple people in the back get off, but more people get on. My heart jolts when I think he might be getting off at this stop, but it settles back down when I see he's just shifting his weight. There's too many people on here. There's not enough space for us all. I can barely see him now. I don't want to get closer. Not yet. I still can't decide what to do. I grab my phone and contemplate messaging someone, the person who helped me through it. It was a couple months after his attempt. I was sitting there at home, tired from another day at school, another day seeing more notifications. At first, I had been answering them, replying back, explaining myself, saying how sorry I was, how I hoped he would forgive me and to pass it on. But after a while, I was just deleting them, reading them to get the icon away, trying to forget about them. Some of them seemed to think I really was the problem. Some of them just wanted to hear my side. They all started to blur together as the weeks went on, except for one. Her post felt different. She was an acquaintance from that school. I had spoken to her a few times before, but she was more a friend of his than mine. She wanted to know more about what had happened and said she was a friend of his. But she also asked how I was doing, if I was okay. I was tired, so I thought it would go like the rest of the conversations. How that sucks, or you two should talk it out, or I'm sorry about that. But it didn't. After I explained it to her, I could imagine her almost laughing, not at me, but more as a confirmation. That sounds just like him. She took over the talking and started telling me all about what she'd seen, how he tried to pull the same thing on her. He loved being the center of attention, but he couldn't do much. Rather than try out for different sports teams or clubs, he kept to his small group of friends and wanted praise for nothing. For her, there was less of an escape. But it was also easier to deal with him. She just talked to him every so often and acted like she cared. We stayed up the rest of the night just talking, making each other laugh by sharing stories. I told her about the time when we got lost in the woods and the sun was starting to set. It had been scary at the time, but it was funny now. I'm studying to be a doctor now, but I still maintain that night, where I laughed longer than I had in months, was more cathartic than a lot of medicine out there. The subway slows down as we approach downtown. Almost everyone on board gets ready to disembark. He looks towards the doors. This is his stop. It's been years. If I let him go, will I ever see him again? Will I ever want to see him again? Will I be able to walk away guilt-free? Will I be laying awake tonight, angry that it didn't stop him? What could I say to him? What would I want to say to him? The doors open. And that's the end. As you can see, it's pretty short, so that's the reason why I didn't record it. I mean, not record it. It's the reason why I didn't live stream it. Because usually with visual novels, I would live stream them. Because I just feel like especially if you have choices to make, it's a lot more fun to have the audience be involved. Sorry about that, I was stretching. Anyways, I'm going to end that here. If you are interested in my Discord, I will put the link in the description below. So if you want to talk, or just want to share funny pictures or something like that, or want to get updates every so often about what's been going on and everything, then go ahead and click on the link and join. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, like, comment, subscribe, share, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye!